for her. So how is this lineage perpetuated? And new generations passed on. This is an important aspect of OSDP, and the understanding of this was explained by Sun Myung Moon, our true father himself, where he said, ultimately, the true father is the axis around which all children and posterity are centered. The true father will be the eternal center of all people. There will always be a physical representative of the true father here on earth, from one generation to another. And there will be that axis which the earth will turn. Therefore, all of you here on earth and all the people in the generations to come will be centered upon that same axis. So it's from father to son, who becomes the father to the son, who becomes the father to the next son, through this lineage. That quote came from a speech from June 5th, 1983. Finally, the third blessing bestowed by God is the potential given to us for establishing perfect relationship with the things of creation. As subject, with the universe as our object, we are to establish harmony with each created thing. This is fulfilled by pursuing our artistic, intellectual, athletic, and other creative designs. The third blessing empowers us to have carrying dominion over all things of the cosmos by developing our unique talents and capabilities according to the universal standard of love. We are to be the lords over creation. But it's a lordship of love. Human beings have the ability to love animals, plants, and other things in a way that is unmatched by any other creature on earth. In addition, all things that are created have the capacity to respond accordingly. Why? Because God intended His children to be the rulers of creation. We have been entrusted with the authority to make the magnificent world even more beautiful through a sensitive and respectful creativity. We stand in a very amazing position to be the lords and ladies over all creation. We have a responsibility to take care of this beautiful world that was given to us. This is one where we fulfill our position as God's children and care for the creation that God has given to us. I'd like to show you just a short video, and I'll explain a little bit about it afterwards. But it's a video of how change can happen when individuals fulfill their responsibility. Can we roll the video?
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years. That the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed. More pools formed. More riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
I'd like to correct that video. The wolves are not at the top of the food chain. You and I are at the top of all the chains out there. So you can see where wolves just fulfilled their particular potential to be wolves. It changed the whole ecosystem of Yellowstone Park. They had been absent. They were reintroduced. And they were able to do what wolves are supposed to do. And everything began to work. What if we, as God's children, began to work as we were supposed to work and fulfill our potential? How much more beautiful the world would be around us. We often think of our cities as some of the dingiest places to be. But what if God's children, fulfilling their potential as loving and giving people who resemble God, if we all congregated in a city, it'd be a pretty nice place. And not what it is. So really it's that subject and object position that we need to establish within ourselves to become the sons and daughters of God. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation eagerly awaits the revelation of the sons of God." All of the creation is waiting for each and every one of us to fulfill our three blessings. The earth that we stand on and all of the creation around us was created for you and for me and for God's children. All of the spiritual realm, the angels, were created and get their joy. How do they get their joy? They get their joy by helping you and supporting you in your position. If we are the sons and daughters of God, if we take our position as the kings and queens, as Hyungjin has been saying we need to do, with our King of Kings above us to connect us as our subject, all of creation can start receiving joy by helping us fulfill our destiny as God's children, as God's sons and daughters. The angels will be so happy to help you in pursuit of the things that you feel compelled to do. Whether it's your ministry, whether it's in farming, whether it's in whatever you can envision, because each and every one of us are individual truth bodies. So your dreams are different than my dreams. And each of us have some kind of vision instilled in our minds. And we often think, I can't accomplish that. Well, maybe you can't. But together, if you're connected with God, the spiritual world and the physical world will be happy to help you. They will help you, introduce you to people that can help you. Miracles will happen in your life. They're happening right now, but you don't even see it. Things you think is, oh, that's nice. That happened. Serendipity doesn't exist, which means serendipity is good fortune, right? Oh, that was good luck. It's not good luck. The angels are with you. You're connected to God. You're connected to the King of Kings. And you assume your responsibility as God's children, as a king and a queen with your wife or with your husband. Magic will happen, but it's not magic. It's the laws of the universe coming into action. And the angels getting their joy because they're helping you. They want to help you. They want to be with you if you stand in your proper position as God's children. God, as creator and the king of the universe, created Adam and Eve. See if I can get, oh, yeah, it goes. Okay. Created Adam and Eve to fulfill the position of true parents and to be the center of the cosmos, having dominion over both the physical and spiritual world. Again, this is where the angels in the spiritual world would love to help you. And the physical world also would love to help you. As lords of creation, they would have stood in the position of the substantial king and queen, inheriting God's authority as rulers over both worlds. That's you. That's me. we have to assume this responsibility. We have to see ourselves from God's viewpoint, take our proper position, exude proper authority, and do great things. This is the inversion of the fallen natures. These are the true natures that we are supposed to naturally assume. The kingdom of heaven on earth would be a physical and spiritual kingdom where Adam and Eve would rule as the substantial king and queen, representing God on earth, establishing the central lineage of authority for future generations. Loving dominion means that our material prosperity, which Hyungjinim has said is coming, as well as our technological and scientific capabilities, would be devoted to benefiting all people, not only one culture or one individual. As our body is to be cared for by our mind, so we should also care for the gifts of the earth and beyond. The ideal world and cosmos, called the kingdom of heaven, was the original intent of God and the motivation behind granting these three blessings to his children. It's really incredible, the responsibility that has been given to us, the freedom and responsibility. This, then, is the fundamental reason God created. Everything you see around you was created for you and for his children. And we are to realize love together with his children and all things of nature. Furthermore, it clarifies the importance of our responsibility to live for something beyond ourselves. The realization of unconditional love within ourselves, our family, and our environment is the primary purpose for our lives. God cannot do this alone. God cannot have joy alone. But we must help God be joyful. Bottom line is that as kings and queens of the universe, with our King of Kings, have the power and authority over all things of love, through true love. We can bring joy to God or we can bring sadness to God. But God really wants to have an intimate relationship with each and every one of us. And by us seeing ourselves from God's viewpoint, knowing who we are as his children, taking our proper position as his children, inheriting the kingdom, and doing great things, not only can we have an exciting life, but we can also have a very happy and joyful God. So let's give thanks to God with a big round of applause.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. Everybody enjoy that presentation? A little bit different, something a little new. Maybe you could say spin on things in terms of the graphics. We also want to thank Alan Feltzot. He's responsible for developing some of the graphics here and further incorporating the content of Divine Principle into some of the new ways of presenting that graphics, particularly with subject and object relationship through the three blessings. So really appreciate the presentation, Kyle. And I wonder, anybody have any comments or any questions from what you've heard, or anything for Kyle? You want to come up here, Kyle? Come on up, Kyle. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I was trying to understand the graphic, one of the graphics. I think it's, for example, second blessing. It could be also maybe it's the first and third blessing. But can you, is it possible to put that diagram on? Yeah.
No, sir.
Um,
Oh,
I guess because I'm used to the four position foundation. You know how we learn to the divine principle where there is God, and then God is having give and take with man, and then God is having give and take with woman, and then each person is having, the 12 position foundation.
right.
Or 12
Yeah,
give and take.
12 positions. Three object purpose.
So, but I'm a little bit confused. Of course, I'm open to learning, this new way. But I don't see any arrows going between man and woman. Usually there was arrows
Actually,
between
Yeah, that's a helpful point, isn't it?
Here, you repeat that just in
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, like in the old diagram, the way we learned divine principle is like God created man and woman, and then man and woman is having give and take with God. Man is having give and take with God, and woman is having give and take with God, and then woman is having give and take with man, and then they are having give and take with the children. So it makes all the like 12 different. But in this diagram, I see there is a give and take between God and man, and also man and children. But I don't see the give and take between the woman and children, the man and the woman with God and all that. I don't. So what's going on?
you helped design this.
Well, we could go back, switch it back to the first blessing. Okay. First blessing, personality of true love, mind, body. So this depiction here holds for the male and the female, for man and woman both. We have to grow to fruition. Fulfilling the three blessings is something we each do individually as well as families. The first blessing, particularly, right? The first blessing is our relationship, man and woman's individual relationship with God. And we stand in the object position to God as a man or as a woman. And you can put in here, mind and body of a man, mind and body of a woman is the same. Now, if you switch to the second slide, then that slide, what you're talking about is how could we create maybe a slide that shows the three object position. That would be far more complex and dynamic than this one. But maybe that's a good idea. We could probably do that, right? We could do that.
But what happened to the four business foundation? You don't show it graphically or anything. It's such a key concept.
Yeah, the second blessing is the four-position foundation. We have God and man and woman and child, and there are four positions there. But it shows the woman in a position object to the female. Right?
Honestly, I think it needs some work. That's my opinion. I don't think it encapsulates the concept fully. I understand what you're saying, the man is subjective, the woman is objective. Oh, yeah, I think, I understand what you're saying, and also from pastors' teaching in the Bible, Ephesians and stuff, that the man is subjective, the woman is objective, and so on. But it seems to be missing some of the core concept of the four-position foundation, just the way it's presented. I'm kind of, I think, understanding where it's coming from, but it seems to be a little lacking. Or, well, I don't know. It needs more work, I think.
Okay, maybe you're talking about a fuller explanation or elaboration or a different an illustration that might show that. Louis, you had a comment up there?
Actually, it's along with Richard Irvin is saying right there, Dr. Irvin's.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I think it's really important that what makes the principle work. Thank you. What makes this work is that everything in the universe works the same. As he's saying, you need more. So you have to show something more in the 8 stages. The classic example that you would see in the illustration would be the sun, the earth, and the moon. That would be a classic example that they show in their relationship. And you could probably expand that to just about everything. In the relationship between subject, and object, all across the universe. But that's the key. I don't think we do enough to illustrate the 8 stages, but if you look at Father's writings, he spends a great deal of time talking about the 8 stages. And our responsibility up to the world level. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Well, one thing I would say is that you could, as we said, make that diagram more dynamic by also showing the relationship that each one has from the first blessing, that each has their relationship with God, and that each are God-centered in that way. And so that, a fuller, perhaps a illustration could also incorporate that.
What I find interesting about this diagram is that something that you don't see in the four-position foundation, and that's that oval surrounding man and woman. I think, to me, when I see that, I see kind of like an assumption of like unity or harmony between the two. I think one of the differences between this and the classical four-position foundation is that usually the man would be in kind of a similar position in respect to the arrows as the woman, in which it's like being sandwiched between the end of an arrow and the beginning of an arrow. And that's what's kind of like, that's different. But it's kind of interesting just how the arrows are like surrounding the man. I don't know. It's like, I feel like there's a certain depth to it that's like hard to get right away, but it is definitely something that takes more thought.
That's a great observation. In fact, that was the intention of Alan in designing that slide, is that the background shadow is reflective of a unity between the subject and object, the oneness. And just a different way of depicting it in that way. Did you have anything else on that? Any other question? Sure. We were showing the slide that we're talking about.
Yeah, she's on the internet watching.
She's not seeing it?
She's asking if we could show. She also sees everybody's pointing, but she asked if we could show the slide.
Oh,
Pointing to.
we able to do that? He'll take care of that.
The question on the internet.
Well, I just want to reemphasize about God and mind and body, that for a long, long time, I have believed that the mind was just the physical mind. Actually, it's not. That I think if we can be a little bit more clear that God is coming into us through the very core of our spiritual self. So it's really the spirit mind that is in us. Again, in the explanation of the divine principle, there is a spiritual mind is into the physical mind, right? So when we say mind and body, I think it's very simplistic to say that, as I have thought that was a physical mind. But actually what we say is that is a spirit self, is the spirit of God, spirit spirit, the spirit mind that we're talking about into our body, and not just the physical mind. And when we present it, I think so we have to kind of think about that if people don't know anything about the principle, we really need to be specific as much as possible.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great comment. Did you have anything more? Hey, John.
Yeah, I want to say I'm really inspired by that Wolf movie. I'm amazed, actually. And I was thinking about the idea of the emphasis on the fact that we're all kings. And I felt like the wolves missing from Yellowstone Park. That's been a missing ingredient in history. There's always been kings on the earth, but they're not the kind of kings that God wanted. And I think I grew up thinking King of Kings means the king of all the kings on the earth. But they're all king-type people. I mean, who needs them? That would be such a job for the king to have to deal with those kind of kings. But Yunjinim give us the idea that, we're the kings. And it's like maybe that's the missing ingredient in humanity right now. The fact that, that component is not there. And maybe we don't have to cover the whole world, like he kept emphasizing in the movie there. Small group of wolves. Maybe it doesn't have to be a lot of people. But just once that slot is filled, then other things could start to fall into place. And I think that's maybe what we're learning through Yunjinim and the microcosm and the macrocosm, and how, a little insignificant group can have an effect on the whole of human history. And I think that's the story of Father, that's the story of Jesus, that's the story of God's providence. Where God's providence went, all history was always circling around it. But I think this videotape really hit home the idea that just one little change could change the whole thing, And I think that's our faith is necessary for that right now, that we're going to do that, even as a small, insignificant group that nobody cares about.
Thank you, John.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess the other camera. I was wondering, so you're going to show more of the principal creation today? This is the highlights for today, right? That's the highlights. Okay. So I thought that this is not a direct criticism, but it's kind of a question or comment, that the original substance divine principle wasn't maybe the key point, or one of them, maybe the key point that, the embodiment of God is not just the sexual union of man and woman itself is embodying the deeper aspect of God's very nature. And it's traditionally shown in the Four-Position Foundation, but it kind of is generalized as, results in children. Wasn't that one of the kind of revelations or understandings or deeper teachings of the OSDP? Is that are you planning to put that in, or am I right?
He's part of the committee.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that was more emphasized in OSDP. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but I was wondering if that's coming in or whatever.
Well, I think the effort here is to try to show on something flat, something that's really three-dimensional. And if that was three-dimensional, it would be more complete in reflecting Father's words and teaching on the relationship between subject and object. And so, only the beginning. And it is highlights and short, but the comments that are being made are wonderful. And through them, we can continue to grow, enhance, develop further, and make the presentations more complete and fuller and richer, and maybe we can put that three-object purpose, multi-dimensional, extraordinarily dynamic illustration out there too. Another question?
I'm sorry, I'm still reflecting on the diagram, how the child comes about. I get the point about, the the deeper background shadow, it shows, like there is already harmony between man and woman. But, I think there is more that needs to be shown how the child comes about. I don't know.
Well, that relates to what I was saying. I mean, it looks, the man is in the diagram, but it's the man and the woman producing the sexual union of the child. That's what's different about it. I don't know if it quite works right. Of course, I said that earlier.
I think the intention of the drawing was to show that the union between the two produces the child, as well as show the dynamic of subject and object in operation within that union. That's and might be another way to do that more completely. But if you think of the traditional drawing, the four-position foundation, does that do it all for you, the traditional one? Is that more complete, would you say?
Well, I think it could be improved. Maybe that with more explanation like the OSDP thing, but it's more clear that the child results from the union of the man and woman. But then I was saying I thought the OSDP, or I understand Father is saying more about that God is embodying not only through the child, but even in the sexual union itself is very significant and so on.
Mm-hmm.
How can you show that in one diagram? I don't know, but it seems like, just the basic dynamic of, the dynamic of the four-position foundation, the sexual union, the child's produced, it's not showing their clear, I guess I like the old one better, or it was more clear somehow, but anyway, it's just my thinking right now, at least.
Any other comments or questions?
Then I give it to you. Yeah, I actually see a design here, purposely a design that, because the theme of the sanctuary is just about the lineage, so it's really that the lineage is coming through the seed of the Father, through the Son, and you see the background in brown, all brown from God. They have a young son, a son, black and white there, and then it's come down through the man, and it's coming down through the child. So I see the theme and the center of your lecture just about the lineage, the ideal of creation and the purpose of God of creating, that is really like reflecting on the sanctuary through the Father's seed, through the Son.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's more emphasis on the lineage, right? Yeah. Also, when I was listening to Kerry Williams' lecture, she said, where is God in a four-position foundation? Actually, the God lives within the man, and the woman, God loves the woman through the man. That's why the, like you said, it's about the seed theology. That's the emphasis about this diagram. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I kind of have 2 points. One was something that I read in, I think, The Way of God's Providence. It was a green and gold lettered book, kind of biggish. I read kind of at the beginning that it said that on the foundation of perfected Adam, Eve can be perfected. So I feel like something like this kind of shows that a bit more, because it's like first comes Adam, and then Eve can be perfected through him and their relationship. I didn't think too much about that, but it's just something that was interesting. And another thing was the, I think the quote from Ephesians, or was it Romans? One of those 2 quotes, the one about the creation kind of waiting in travail, or eagerly waiting for, yeah. That was the Romans one, right? Yeah. Kind of like that's how things, I feel like that's how things should be, because man fell, creation didn't fall. So then creation, after man fell, creation was became like a more holistic viewpoint of like what an object should be, in my viewpoint. I don't know if that's like legit or not, but kind of like you could learn more about being an object from creation than you can from a man after man fell. So then kind of like that eagerly waiting to become an object to your complete subject partner, kind of like I feel like that's something that it's kind of hard for women to accept in this day and age, that they should be kind of like eagerly waiting for their perfect man to come, or to find that perfect man for them, somebody that God has prepared for them, and to prepare themselves for that person, not just like waiting or hoping, but to become that person who can be that perfect object to them. It's kind of like something that I feel like a lot of people have a bit of difficulty with, especially people outside of the church or outside of unificationism. They're kind of like, women, go, go, go. And there's not so much of that like emphasis on you and a guy. So it's kind of like, it's interesting.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions?
Actually, I'm not so sure if what I'm going to say is true or not. But seeing on the bottom writings, it says second blessing, through a family of true love. So the true love that comes from God passes to the man, and when the men have that how experience true love, then it passes to the child, and then I think it that goes the harmonious relationship with a man and a woman and a child and to God. I don't know. It makes sense.
Was that clear? Do we need her to restate that? Pardon?
I know we had one time before we had unification, so they went into more detail, right, about many aspects. But I can't remember exactly how they put it. But is the original substance divine principle, is that trying to get more details, or is it more? What's the emphasis actually? More detail than the regular divine principle presentations is more, but unification thought is. Somehow I liked it. It was more detail. It's just what I compare it now.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we have divine principle, and then we have the OSDP, original source divine principle, which incorporates Father's kind of review of divine principle and deeper, I mean, understandings that the divine principle wasn't complete or clear enough on. So we end up with OSDP. But I think unification thought is based on divine principle. Unification thought is based on divine, yeah. It could be more scientific. It would be interesting to see a review of unification thought through the lens of OSDP instead of just DP. I mean, yeah, that is due for review as well. Anyway, any other questions or comments? Well, thank you all very much. We really appreciate your comments and feedback on the illustrations, and it's a work, continuing to work to communicate better and clearer and understand more deeply divine principle and Father's words. and share them with our whole community. So we want to thank you again, Kyle, for your wonderful lecture today. And should we give him another round of applause? Thanks, Kyle. I'm sorry?
Just one more. Maybe this, I'm understanding more like by the comments, the very insightful comments. I think it's good. Oh, okay. I'm understanding more and learning more, but maybe this could be a secondary diagram and keep the original one, or something very similar to the original one, and this would be a secondary explanation of the, proper role of the seed of God or something like that, or the lineage or the position of the man and woman, but to keep the original one too. Anyway, just a thought.
Okay, thank you. One more point?
Yeah. I'm just really happy that the key point of this was how to bring God joy. And it being God's Day, I feel like that's like, you guys are spot on today. What a topic.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks everyone. Lunch will be at 1 o'clock, and so hope you enjoy a little break in your lunch, and then we'll reconvene back here. I think it's at 2 o'clock, Lourdes, for the, pardon me? I was told it's a little bit delayed, so it'd be more closer to 1. But then our next lecture, the Chunilguk Constitution, Tim Elder will be following at 2 o'clock, I believe. Is that correct, Lourdes? It says 1:30, but with the lunch being delayed till 1 o'clock, then is 2 o'clock okay, Lourdes? Okay, 2 o'clock. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy your lunch.